Good evening, everybody. I didn't have the mic on mute, so do apologize for the coughing there. Wanted to make sure that I had everything throat clear and everything for tonight's live stream. With what we now have as Invest 97L working off of the African coastline, and its development percentages already exceeding 40%, we will be live from now until October 31st. So every night here, 6 p.m., Facebook and YouTube, we will be live every single night. So regardless of development percentages, we'll make sure that we're here. We're not playing or messing around this year. So let's go ahead and kind of get into the weeds of Invest 97L. I know that's the big story. We won't worry about 96L. It's plowed into a massive plume of Saharan air, as you could see here. And even as the sun goes down, I'll wait till it rolls through and then we'll click a stop on it. You could see even as the sun goes down, there's not a lot of bright white thunderstorm cloud tops out here, so it's not really producing a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity, so we're really not going to pay attention to it too much. The development percentages on it have come down quite a bit. The big story is obviously the Invest 97L, and then we have Evo out here churning off into cooler waters in a more stable air mass and is beginning to weaken quite a bit. And in Henriette, we can't see it on this one. I didn't bring up the Western, actually GOES 17 satellite of the Western Pacific, but it's out there and damn thing does not want to give up at all. So taking a look at the most recent surface analysis from the National Hurricane Center, we can see the low pressure associated with Invest 96L and then our tropical wave, which is Invest 97L. That's what we're going to primarily concentrate on. Now, as of the 2 p.m. advisory, we have a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days. Those development percentages will continue to increase as more and more outlooks are issued, because you are getting into further and further down the line in time to where development is, I hate to say it like this, but almost guaranteed. I don't see a scenario to where this thing doesn't end up becoming a name storm and our Atlantic season's first hurricane of the year. I really, really don't see any scenario that would not allow that to occur, even if it were to get caught up in a bunch of Saharan air and delay its development until it got out west of 50 degrees, and then it's pretty much game on from there. But it looks impressive right now. So using tropical tidbits here, the sun has obviously gone down over here on the west coast of the African mainland, but you can see a very well and pronounced area of low pressure already with this wave emerging. Now, it has been slowly ticking to the west today, and slowly with a little bit of a northern component, not a lot. James and I have been pretty much tracking this pretty much all day long, just to see, because once we got visible satellite on it, we're pinpointing, watching, and seeing its evolution because it is so close to the African mainland. So it definitely going to be some increase in shower and thunderstorm activity for the Cabo Verde Islands. If we take a look at Earth Null, as you can see, Earth Null is showing a well-defined area of low pressure here. Could even be a closed low, but comparing it to satellite, we're missing the deep thunderstorm activity and convection around the center of circulation. It's still very broad. It is not a very tight circulation, but it's got nothing but open waters left now. So what it's going to do is it's definitely going to try to organize over the next few days. So taking a quick look, I do want to run through the ensembles, and then I'm going to pop back over to Earth Null real quick. But if we take a look at the ensembles, this is the 12Z regular Euro, not AI. If we notice, we've got a very pronounced northern turn to this over 10 days. And if I bring it back to 7, we're in the range of about 60 degrees west at this point. So it we need to see as much latitude on this as possible between now and next Saturday. We want that number to gain just as high as it can get, because if it does, it increases the chances of this being pulled and turned to the north. So that it's going to be a timing issue and a question as to where, when, and if it turns to the north. Now, right now, the trends are definitely favorable for avoiding the United States, but we still don't have anything that is developed yet. So you can't really put 100% into the ensembles, because each individual ensemble member is trying to predict where this is going to develop. Now, we do have an invest tag on it. The one thing that I have not seen any of the halves run on 97L yet. I did check, and we do not have that as of yet. Maybe later. We'll definitely have it by tomorrow, but I'm hoping to see at least a 0Z run on it tonight. So if we run this out, I'm going to push this out to 12 days just to show everybody on the regular Euro that a significant majority of the ensembles wants to keep this out over open waters. All right, very few want to bring it off to the west. If we compare that to the AI, and now considering what we've seen day after day with this, now the AI doesn't have it necessarily as strong, but then also has the potential for a very, very southern development, which really, behind 97L, which we'll have to keep a very close watch on that one. But if we take a look at 10 days, there is a greater amount of spread with the Euro's AI. And then if I push it out to 12 days, somewhere, and it looks like somewhere between 60 and hopefully not 80, this thing is going to try to turn north. Where is the question? I mean, where the AI model is concerned, this thing is all over the place, and then has a potential low rider associated with another area of low pressure that is not 97L. So I've been reading a study regarding tropical cyclone clustering and developing in the Atlantic. So I'll get back with you on that one tomorrow. It's a very long study. I did not finish it last night. So comparing the Euro models to the GEFS ensembles, we do see that they're in a decent amount of agreement with the ensembles that we should have a more northerly component as we get closer and closer to 60 degrees west, which, as long as we can keep it above 20 before we get to 60, we spare the folks in the Lesser Antilles and the Virgin Islands and all our little island, nations out there that certainly do not need an early season, well, I can't say early season, but the beginning of peak season, major impact, and we still have the entire season to go. They don't, nobody wants this storm, and I am, very reluctant in looking at these models just for Bermuda themselves because it doesn't look good. If these models verify, you could just look at the intensity of some of these. It's extreme. Any of the pink ensembles are pressures 900 or below 950 millibars. So it looks intense, and we get a storm like that sitting off the coast of the Carolinas between Bermuda and the Carolinas. We are definitely going to have some issues out there. There's no doubt about it. Now, what kind of impacts we're definitely going to see, regardless, even if this thing turns to the north, come next weekend. Um, be very careful if you are trying to go out onto the beaches. And I know I I am quite concerned for the intensity of this. Not really, potential landfall, but the intensity and what this is going to potentially turn into. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm quite concerned for it. We're definitely going to get some ace off of this one for the Atlantic Basin. So we're going to run the Google DeepMind out here. We've got it out to 6 days, and we are going to highlight our area for everybody to show that the Google DeepMind does have a couple that, if they're really, really low or the high pressure is a little bit stronger or it delays development potentially, that stays weak, goes west, then starts to develop, and then starts to turn, that kind of thing. Yeah. Um, but overall, there is a low pressure system expected to be kind of in the region of eastern Canada as this is on approach. That's at least what the models are calling for right now. Um, if we take a look at the dust, I'm not going to go too deep into the Google DeepMind tonight because I've got reasons, and I'm going to show you why here in just a minute, because I am going to go back. So if we take a look at the dust model certainly has a plume coming out and potentially interfering with 97L as it pulls further and further to the north. Now, the question is, at that point, does it try to consolidate kind of within its wave pocket? Where does that center end up? Right now, it looks very healthy with a good amount of spin. And if that can hold, which they've already tagged it with an invest, so it seems likely, but if that can hold, then we don't have to worry about, like, oh, okay, is it going to develop on the north end of the wave pocket, the south end of the wave pocket? We've got, speed of, forward speed across the basin. So there's some timing things with this. So what I have here is I've got a comparator, and it may be a little difficult for folks to see this, so I'm going to do the best that I can to explain this. What I've been doing is monitoring the high pressure over the Atlantic Basin and then going up the line in more or less Alaska to see low pressures from the northern hemisphere kind of looking down, seeing how the low pressures kind of rotate around the jet stream and how they're influencing here into the Atlantic Basin. So if I run this forward, what I have, okay, let me get a little more detail. I have the European regular euro here on the upper left. I have the GFS on the upper right, and I have the Euro AI here in the lower left. So as I run this forward, we will note that our little wave of Invest 97L starts to really show up on the regular euro. We on our 120. We've already got a developed storm with the GFS at 120. We don't really have much of a signal at all from the AI assisted euro at 120 hours. And this would be 5 days from the 12Z. So if I continue to run this forward and we get it to 7 days, by this time the GFS has a very well developed system at this point. The regular euro certainly does as well, but it is not nowhere near the intensity of what we've got there on the GFS. And the AI euro is starting to pick up the signal for that potential development of 97L here, well north of the islands. So all three of the models are calling for it being north of the islands. The high pressure noted in our darker red colors, as you could see, it's pretty much stretches across the basin with all of them. But let me get the crayons out here. Ooh, we got green. That will actually work. What we see is they're all in agreement with low pressures right here. What also they're in agreement with is that there is another low pressure here. One is here with the euro, and another one is here, just off the screen. So we also have another shortwave trough that looks to be kind of right here, and right here. This is going to continue this way. This is what's going to help keep the high pressure over the Atlantic from getting really strong. This provides just enough of a break, and then with the low associated with what will become Aaron, should be enough to give it some type of break and be able to pull. That's at least what the models are showing right now, but we don't have development. So I'm going to run this forward just a little bit more. And as you can see, we've got that low pressure off of the coast of Newfoundland up here. That's beginning to deepen. We've got the other signal of kind of similarity somewhat with the GFS bringing in a trough of some sort through Canada at around that timing. And again, also with the Euro AI. Now, if we continue to run this forward, that gives just enough for the poleward kind of pull of the system to be able to kind of erode back the high pressure. And you see by the time that we get to day 10 on all three of these models, that our high is anchored back here. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Now, we still have to wait on things to develop. Again, there's other factors that are going to go into this. There's going to be wind shear. There's going to be the dust. So, all eyes basically on the tropics this week. Please make sure that you are paying attention to the forecast being generated from the National Hurricane Center. We'll be here. We'll be live every single night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. So you guys feel free. Reach out, ask questions, whatever you need. We certainly want to dispel the myth of big scary models. Notice how you haven't seen you haven't seen very many of the scary models being posted on social media lately. It's because they're all curving out. But you could believe if there's another one coming, those folks on social media are just going to start popping it all over the place. So, real quick look at Earth Null. Now, again, let's jump back down here to the 850 millibar level. This is approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface, and we will definitely have to change our green color. All right, Ashley. I mean, and ma'am, if you've got any questions, please feel free and just message me, anybody, and just ask away. We're definitely here and more than happy to help. So the one question that we raised today is this particular high pressure. All right, and let's go back real quick to the models. Some of the models have been showing as it is coming across the basin and it kind of gets into this region here that it could do one of these numbers. So what that is associated with is the high pressure here. And as this continues to kind of come up this way and then eventually kind of flatten out and come over, see how this high kind of dips down like this? There have been a couple model runs that kind of show it coming up and then dipping back down underneath it and then regaining some latitude. So just for the folks that may be watching, the number there on the latitude itself, maybe somewhere between like 30 and 40 degrees west, you could see more of a flatten out or even a westward component of the system that might not be directly at 270. It could be 265 for a little bit, 260, and then pop back up as it gets to the left side or the west side of this overall high pressure. Because right now we're at the 850 millibar level, and as you could see, we already have a high pressure here. So what this system is trying to do is go up and over this, but below this one. So it's kind of doing a little bit of a dance to where it's got to kind of come up, around, down, under, and through. So a little, it's not like Mother Nature wanted to make it easy on us, folks. So taking a look at the 700 millibar level, we don't really have that much of a influence there when we're starting to get up into the lower, the lower mid level of the atmosphere. This is about 2 miles up. That's 1 mile up. So while it's still weak and while the storm is still shallow, because it doesn't have a lot of thunderstorm activity around it, so there's not this big core of tall thunderstorms around the center of circulation. So it's not being really influenced by, say, the 700 millibar level or the 500 millibar level. It's not. So it's things that we're kind of monitoring, but highly recommend you checking back at least once a day with the National Hurricane Center, getting a little bit of an update as we get into like the early part of this upcoming week, especially as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll probably have development by that point in time, and then the models will really be able to kind of hone in on everything, and obviously we'll be closer to whatever event is going to occur with this. So just make sure, folks, that you please keep a watch on this one. It's got all of those telltale signs of it could be a problem if left unchecked, and it really needs to kind of get out and pull off to the north. And if it can do that and stay out to sea, we'll at least be able to dodge a threat. Because this one, where it's come off, how low it's come off, this one's a threat, and we need to take this one It's not a imminent threat, but it is just a threat to the overall basin itself. And I don't mean United States, folks there for Bermuda, potentially the Bahamas, getting into the windwards, or and the Leeward Islands, potentially the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. It's hurricane season, and this is one that's got one of those look signals to it, coming off very strong off the African mainland. So it's a threat to the basin, not to anybody in particular. Okay, NWC app. You mean the NHC, Ashley? They got an app. Yes, and James, you raise a very, very great point. Please make sure that you've got your kits up and ready to go if needed. If you don't need it, great. If you do, you got it. All right, taking a look at our MJO update for the evening. Really didn't move that much, but it is over there going into the. Okay, Ashley. Is going into the African continent there as it is rotating over into phase two, and is, kind of partly responsible for what we see there with 97L, partly. So we take a look at the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. They pretty much had it nailed from August 13th to August 19th. You figure that's going to be 4 days from now, and development right in this region. I hope it is a lot further north than it is south compared to the highlighted area. And again, for week 3, I hope that they nailed it correctly and show a turn out to the open waters. Let's just hope, if that is the case, that the folks there in Bermuda are spared from any significant impact. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to our green. I'm going to make sure that I do this year, because I want to make sure that we highlight for folks, until we at least get to the peak season, kind of where we're at as far as hurricane season goes. We're somewhere in this range right here, give or take a line or two. It may be getting over that way. We're somewhere in there. I'm not going to sit here and try to count the lines. It's not the best graphic in the world. So, as you can see, we've got all this left to go, and we're just getting started. So, this Invest 97L is a good wake-up call for everybody, letting everybody know that the tropics are waking up. We are beginning to approach peak season. Please make sure you've got your kits ready to go if needed, and you're monitoring the National Hurricane Center's forecast. It is always recommended. August, September, and October, you may want to at least just check in with the NHC once a day. If they've got nothing that is imminent for you, congratulations. But you still may want to check into with the NHC at least once a day, especially during this time of year. So taking a look at potential development and origin places, or not potential development, but places of origin for tropical cyclones from 1851 to 2024, through the dates of August 11th through the 20th, as you could see, anywhere. It gets worse as we go August 21st through the 31st. So a considerable increase in origin points. You go from 152 to 207. So that is a significant increase. So buckle up, folks, because here we go. Now, jumping out here, yes, and Florida, and I know Jonathan's there on chat for the page. Yes, you are correct there, sir, with the Florida sales tax for hurricane supplies, and it's permanent. The disaster supplies are now permanent. Is there a typical area out there that Florida storms to originate from? So there is a theory known as Herbert's box. This one doesn't look like that it's going to impact that. You would need a hurricane to go through. I believe it's kind of like this, and another one that's kind of over here somewhere. So if right now, Christy, it looks like now as far as like where they originate from, not really. Um, Obviously, in the later months over here, in the later part of the season, you get the cold fronts that come down from the mainland that then turn the wind field like this as the front approaches. So that's why you get October, with CAG and all that other stuff. You'll get development down here, and then it'll cut the corner like this in response to the trough. As far as the main development system or main development region systems go, everything is really to do with timing and location because it has to travel so far across the basin that you look at it like this. It's being shot off of the African mainland. I hate to use this example. This is almost like America. It gets shot off of the African mainland, and you think about the storm, the center of the circulation, more or less like a bullet. It has to take the exact track and path, and it has to have the perfect timing to be able to impact the Florida mainland. Why does the Florida mainland have, or at least the peninsula, have so many impacts historically compared to other people? It is orientated from north to south. And it is, approximately 125, 150 miles wide and, 400 miles long. Sorry, Keys, I did not include you in that. But when's his birthday, Sammy? Hi, Cash. So, but you've got to have things set up just right because the timing of the shortwave troughs coming across the northern part of the United States and into Canada help weaken and disrupt this high pressure, and that could lead to openings. And as you can see, that's what we're dealing with right now is a potential opening. 10-9. I'll do my best, buddy. I'll do my best. But I can't promise you you're talking about October. Yeah, we don't want a hurricane for your birthday, but you can blame your mother, young man. It's all your mother's fault. She is the one that gave birth to you in October, so it's mommy's fault, and you can tell her Casper said so. And, she should have planned better next time. I'm sorry, Sammy. I had to. So, so if we take a look, though, overall, it's a lot of timing. And depending on where it develops, when it develops, and what is up the line, what's up here. There's a lot of stuff that goes on up here, as you can see at the 500 millibar level. The system that I'm watching actually is that one right there. This one is forecast to come this way, dip down, and then come across like this. The question is, does it go this way? How far south does this get? That's my question. And as you can tell, we're over here in Alaska. This right here is Alaska. So I'm I'm doing the best that I can to try to figure this one out ahead of time. Yeah, there we go. Her rain dance. Yeah, yep. It's her. Blame mommy. She keeps doing rain dances as well. Cash. Tell mommy she needs to sit down and not do rain dances. Hey, we don't want. And I agree. I agree. You definitely don't want a hurricane on your birthday, but let's go even as far as, like, let's take this out in advance there, Cash, and just say we don't want any hurricanes to hit us or anybody else all season long. If we could keep these things out into the open waters and spare Bermuda, because even if we turn these out into the open waters, we need to spare Bermuda. Those folks, they deserve protection as well. So it's this is one of those ones to where it's like, all right, what are we gonna do? Like what are you gonna, how are you gonna act up? It's getting that time of year. I'm sure we're gonna be doing this quite a few more times over the next 6 weeks or so as we go through the peak part of the season. 8 weeks. So this is the first one, and I've got signals, though. I'll just kind of some of my opinions here. I've got signals that maybe as we get a little further down and we get rid of the 97L threat, and then the potentially next maybe one or two waves that are going to come off there, maybe signals that it's going to be up the monsoon trough coming off the African mainland, maybe a little higher than they would normally like to be, which could bury it into a little bit of extra dry air as we go forward and get into maybe latter part of August. Maybe like third week, end of the third week or so. So fingers crossed on that. Not certainly can't confirm that going forward. Not yet. It is way too early for that. So, all right, we've done enough babbling about the Atlantic. Let's jump over here to the Pacific real quick. We're currently with Tropical Storm Evo, located at 21.0 north, 113.5 degrees west, moving west at 7 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,003 millibars. Maximum sustained winds will be at 50 miles an hour, though they are decreasing. As we can see, it is out here off the coast of the Baja Peninsula. And a little hint with Henriette. And why are my graphics flip-flopped? Wait a minute. What are we doing? Oh, I just called out Evo. This was supposed to be Henriette's slot. So anyway, it's tropical storm again, and it will not die. It's at 22.3 degrees north, 148.1 degrees west, moving west-northwest at 16 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,008 millibars. Maximum sustained winds are 40 miles an hour. And so, as you can see, well northeast of the Hawaiian Islands, producing some convective activity, very tiny storm. I mean, you can see the storm itself and the big island of Hawaii are very comparable in size. Tiny, little persistent little thing. I got words for that thing. Hazards affecting land, none in the public advisory. And if we look at the quick shot here at the forecaster's discussion, post-tropical again in 96 hours, with it being completely dissipated by 120 hours as this thing begins to really start to gain that latitude, as you can see here. 33.5, 37.7. So it is being, ushered into much colder waters, and it will finally succumb to the cold water at that point, which, hey, it's persistent. I'll give it that. As you can see, the forecast track here, make sure, yeah, it's on its way up there towards Alaska. We'll see if any semblance of the low pressure can be absorbed and bring a little bit of that extra tropical moisture into a low pressure that may increase and help intensify. I've been looking at pretty much everything. One of the models are showing that it may get absorbed by another low pressure, some of that remnant energy, and help to increase it and just provide extra showers and thunderstorms for folks there on the west. So again, we've already done Evo's particulars. So real quick with the satellite view, again, a very small sized storm, not very large in overall diameter, moving out into much cooler waters and a much more stable atmosphere. You could see clear examples of the stable atmosphere with these clouds right here. These are definitely cool air and stable clouds. And even though we can't zoom in on it, but if anybody really wanted to see something really cool, this little island right here spins off little Carmen vortices, and Carmen vortices, and it by watching that you get the mountaintop sits up high enough for the low cloud deck, and as the winds blow by, there's little circulations and little spins in the clouds that come off of it. They don't ever form into anything, but because it's in a cool, stable atmosphere. But they are pretty cool to look at if you can get a satellite view up close. Yeah, James. It doesn't look that way, and you are right, Sammy. You cannot lose what you have never had. But if I ever have to do a tropical update that involves Alaska, I am going to lose my mind. There's no doubt about it. So the hazards affecting land for Evo is just the surf. So please, folks, be careful. Rip currents out there. It is forecast to be completely dissipated within 72 hours and post-tropical somewhere between the 24 and 36 hour time frame. So 36 hours anticipated to be pretty much a remnant low, 24 hours being barely holding on to its tropical cyclone status or tropical storm status, and that could be adjusted here and there depending on how quickly it degrades. Looking at the forecast track, it's out there, and we didn't show the I didn't have the experimental cone. Did I show it for Henriette? No, I didn't. There we go. It's out there. So they're expecting it to kind of become that remnant low well before we get out there. And I knew it wouldn't necessarily still be tropical in nature, but if this thing could have had the opportunity to come into this area a little bit stronger than what it was, maybe. It would really need to deepen a lot of the pressures to accomplish that. Hopefully one day, in the way that the waters are warming and stuff like that out there in the Pacific, I would imagine one day that it could occur, but hopefully I'm not around to see it. So getting out here to Padul out here in the Western Pacific, this one again has some concern, forecast to become a typhoon. Still a little bit of variance there in its forecast track, and we're keeping a very close watch on it for its intensity for sure. It's out there. There is some shear and stalled out frontal boundary to the north, but with a high pressure between that and there, as it is getting and continuing on that westward track, can it can it really begin to intensify? And then, what will the situation be as it begins to round the southwestern periphery of that high pressure out there? So please, folks, make sure that if you want any information on the islands out there or anything, pretty much any country across the world, you can find it at the database that we've got tied to the page. This way, you can get the official forecast from their official meteorological agencies for their countries. So, all right, everybody, that's about all I have for tonight. I will be back again. We'll be live every night until Halloween. Invest 97L made sure of that. So, yeah, we'll talk to you again tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. So, have a wonderful evening, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night.